Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the second video of the series where we're testing a stone to see their capabilities, or the capabilities of this one particular stone, not this one, stone I have here. So what am I doing right now is prepping this razor for the next test that I do, right? And these videos are just a guide of what I do. You guys can do it however you want, but and you don't have to do it in this particular order. I'm doing all these tests, and obviously I don't do all these tests all the time, and not with all the stones. It depends of the conditions that the stone comes in, who came from. So if I have somebody reliable that's telling me that it's a finishing stone for razors, I am obviously not going to go through the hustle and doing this portion that I'm doing right now, right? I'm just going to go and try it. Maybe from an AK and see if it is indeed a finisher, right? So I was just doing some finishing strokes on a 1K. And I'll tell you why. So let's do some finishing strokes with water. Boom. Alright. So what do we need for the next test? So for the next test, I'm going to be using a razor that I don't care about much. So I use gold dollars to test stones most of the time, and that's what I'm going to be using. So I need a gold dollar or any razor that you don't care about very much. I use a jeweler's loop, and this one is a 40X. Comes with a little light. They're super cheap in Amazon. This is what I use. If you have a fancy scope, that will work too, obviously. All right, and I have some comments on this and using this type of magnification. We'll get to that soon. Then a rag, and then of course you need the stone. So what did we do last time? In the very first video, we make sure that this stone was flat and ready to be tested with a razor. So now we're gonna see the cutting capabilities of the stone, and some of these testing you're not gonna be doing on a lot of the stones. Some of these testing is what I do to JNats, specifically Japanese naturals, because of the range that these can have and the capability. I like to do these tests to determine if this stone can finish. Can I do a one stone hone straight out of 1K just with that stone, etc. So the other thing that we will need is a baseline stone. So I chose the Chaucera 1000. Why? Because most people, including myself, we set bevels on a 1000. If you set a bevel on an 800 all the time, on a 1200, on a 2000, we'll use that as your baseline, right? So what are we gonna do first? What we're gonna do is we just resetted the bevel on this razor. We're gonna look in a loop, and we're gonna see how the serrations look like, right? I want to make sure that these serrations are looking nice and even and parallel, that I'm not having more serrations on one side than the other one, that the bevel is looking straight, all that good stuff. That the edge is not chipped, because if I don't look at it before I go to the stone and it was chipped in the first place, then I will think that this stone made the chipping, right? So it's looking good. Try to remember how those serrations look like, how this scratch pattern looks like, because the purpose of the stones is to erase that previous scratches, right? So we're gonna see how well it does after the 1K, erasing those scratches. When you're looking at the edge, make sure that you play with the light and you play with the angle. Remember, you're watching this in 2D. You cannot see how deep these scratches are, right? You're only watching from the surface a bunch of lines. Sometimes, depending on the light, it looks mirror finish. But the scratches are there. Look for them. Don't fool yourself. Just look for them. So I use a DNT 325, and we're going to raise a slurry. Right now, as you can see, raising a slurry in the stone is taking a bit. That is a great indication that this stone is a hard stone. But is it hard enough to finish? That's another question. So I'm going to raise a good amount of slurry, because this is to testing how much does it cut. Dilute that. That's plenty right there. Then I'm going to do some circles. This is what I do. And that slurry is dark already. I don't know if you guys saw it. So some half circles. That slurry is really dark. Check that out. Alright, so I've seen some people taking a comma or a chisel or a knife and then just wailing on it. Those passes that I was doing the same amount of pressure that I would on a regular honing session. The reason I don't use a knife or a chisel is because it tells me how good it cuts on the chisel, not on a razor. And I'm testing this stone specifically for razors. Plus, razors don't have a lot of surface. So if I do something that has half an inch or an inch of surface and I'm just grinding and pushing down, that's not telling me how fast it will cut with normal pressure on a razor. So now I know that this stone cuts really, really nice. I'm gonna do a couple more passes. I did like 20 circles on each side and then like 20 half circles. I mean half excess half strokes. And right now what I'm looking at as well is to see if I'm getting the slurry come up the razor. It's called undercutting. I want to make sure that it is undercutting. At this point, I knew this stone was gonna be, you know, a higher grit than 1K. But how does it work with that 1K, after the 1K? Although I know that it's probably going to be on a finishing side of the spectrum, maybe a pre-finisher. We're hoping that it is a finisher, but you never know until you get there. So let's rinse this off. Let's see what we got. All right. So I really apologize. I don't have a computer with a scope connected to it. But right now what I'm seeing on the edge is that most of the original scratches from the 1K are gone. I have a beautiful beat blast, a couple straggler scratches here and there, but most of those scratches are just gone, which means this is a very fast stone, which makes me really happy. Now, is it fast enough and fine enough to make this a finishing stone? So that's what we're gonna do next. So right now I am going to wash this off, and I'm gonna raise another slurry. Because at this point I noticed that this stone is very capable to erase them scratches from the 1K. So what I'm gonna try to do is to do a 1 stone hone, and then I'm literally gonna go and try to shape with it. Right? This stone is really fast, and I'm really happy with it. Another thing I was looking for when I was looking down the scope or the loop is to make sure that the edge, the very edge, is not getting microchipped or toothy, right? You wanna have progress when you're honing with it. You want to see if the stone self-slurries, and that's what we're going to get here soon. Self-slurrying stones means that they're probably soft, on the soft side, and if they start self-slurring, obviously it's going to slurry, but it's going to keep cutting. It's going to probably be on the low side of the honing spectrum. So I'm just honing like I would to finish a razor. Why did I re-slurry? Because usually if I do 1 hone stone, that's what I do. Or 1 stone hone, that's what I do. I re-slurry it to get that fresh slurry back on it. As I'm going to be diluting, and right now it's undercutting really nicely, really nicely. Now, in the occasion that this stone, or the stone that you are testing, does not erase the scratches from the 1K, and the slurry doesn't start getting dark, and you can tell it's not cutting, well, that means that is a higher grit stone. But on the JNAT world, that does not mean this stone being able to clean those scratches does not mean that it's low grit, to call it grit, stone. It just means that it's a fast stone and the range is insane, right? So this could very well be a very good finishing stone, and it could be very versatile, could be used as a finishing and more, like we're doing now. Alright, so right now I have a still slurry there. Hopefully you guys can see it. It feels really nice. We're gonna stop and we're gonna look, see what we can see under the loop. I suggest that you do this very often to see what is your progress. And it's also good because you can see you want to make sure, I mean, this is not a honing video, but you want to make sure that you have the same pattern across, that you're not lifting, that you're not only doing the toe or the heel, etc. So now, this kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting this stone to be this fast, but so now testing to see if it's shave ready. A lot of people like to finish on slurry, and a lot of people like to finish on just plain water. I will finish just on slurry first, because if I go all the way to just water, then I miss the opportunity to test this with just slurry, the same razor. So what I mean is, I go only to slurry, then I test shave, and then I can always come back, re-slurry it, go back and forth, and then finish in just water and see the effects. Now testing, a lot of people I see use the hanging test, hanging hair test. And whatever test you use, try to stay consistent. It doesn't matter if you use that test or another test, just use the same one. So if you're using hanging hair, use the same type of hair. If it is your wife's hair, your hair, whatever, use the same type of hair. So I like to use my leg. Right? So what I did there, you guys couldn't see it, is I was just approaching the razor towards the hair. And what I'm looking for is how it cuts the hair. I know that if I put this razor on the skin and go, you know, and try to cut hair, it's gonna cut, because that's how I test for the bevel being set. But what I'm looking at is, how is it cutting? Is it grabbing the hair? Are the hairs just jumping away like they're scared of the blade? The noise that it's making is very important. Making sure that that the noise that is making, when they're super sharp, usually they don't make any noise. When they're not so sharp, they do like a clink noise. All that, and the more you hone, the more you will be able to tell. As long as you use the same testing method, you should be good. And then the ultimate test is your face, right? So I'm gonna keep going a little bit more, because it was a little grabby as I was going, and that's what I'm gonna do for this video, and that's it. So I'm not gonna bore you with it anymore. So I'll probably keep going some more, and then I'm gonna test shave to see where we're at. And I'm not gonna record the test shave, but if it is not good enough for test shaving, that means that I probably need something in between this stone and the 1K, like a 3K maybe. So that will be the third video, going from a 3K, and then maybe going from an 8K. And that's how you know where it falls in your progression. If it is a strictly finisher, a pre-finisher, mid-range, or whatever. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this series as of now. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you guys later.